Some claim that the age of a true gentleman is far behind us, but here at 284 Media, we disagree. He may appear in different guises today, but the values and ideals that make him a gent still stand. Gentlemen, aspiring gentlemen, and of course, our partners that hold us down. I'm Ron Grant. Welcome to Season 3 of The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman, a show poised to help guide a modern-day man into 21st century distinguished gentlemen. Now, don't worry, it doesn't always involve suits and bow ties, but raw, real-life lessons that really translate to grounded, community-minded, well-rounded men. Thank you all for taking this journey with me. Now, as promised, this season we take you on an entirely different journey. From chefs to dancers, construction experts, we're heading outside in the field to share the journey of some of the BVI's best and brightest men. From East End to West End, Virgin Gorda, Jas Van Dyke, and of course Anegada. Our Virgin Islands gentlemen are doing remarkable things, and we are absolutely proud. The success of the territory of the Virgin Islands is solely reliant upon the people that work behind the scenes to make it a great country. We are blessed to have some of the most hardworking individuals, both in the private and public sectors, who lend their skills and expertise to this country's success. Without their invaluable service, we would be nothing. Today, we feature one of the VI's youngest legal professionals, a son of the soil, who hails from Chalwell with roots in East End. His contribution in the legal professions are invaluable, most notably representing House of Assembly members in the highly talked about and watched Commission of Inquiry. Ladies and gentlemen, Managing Director, of Silk Legal, the brilliant and highly resourceful Mr. Daniel Davies, a representation of true, unapologetic Virgin Islands greatness and a true 21st century distinguished gentleman. Stick with us to hear all about his journey. Let's do it. Is business slow? Cash flow down? Hosting an upcoming event? We can help. Advertise with 284 Media and take your business or event to the next level by enhancing your present marketing and messaging strategies. Allow our team of experts to create a personalized ad that sets your business apart from all the rest. This could be your business or event. So, what are you waiting for? Contact our marketing team at 284media@cctbvi.com. Advertising with us works. Viewers, welcome back. Thank you so much for sticking with us. Again, we are joined by the one and only Daniel Davies. You're watching The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman. Daniel, first of all, thank you so much and welcome to the set.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here. And
So you hail from family lineage out of East End.
yes.
But you are from Chalwell Estate.
Yes.
What has it been like for you growing up in such a family-oriented, close-knit community like East End? What was your childhood like?
Well, it was a rather interesting childhood, to say the least. When I was small, one of my fondest memories is, going out with my father on surfboards, fishing, and going out with my brothers sometimes as well, and carrying little dinghies across the road into the bay area and going fishing on those small dinghies. And, there's a rather pleasant experience.
Beautiful.
Yes.
So, having grown up in the BVI community, having been well-traveled and well experienced as it pertains to world matters, situations that really affect the world at large, you have chosen a career in the legal profession, or perhaps law chose you. How did you get into law?
Well, a few things really. Firstly, I've never been one to take injustice lying down. I don't like injustice at all. I like helping people, among other things.
Okay.
And on the other side of that, however, is that I simply wasn't any good at math, and
You and I both.
and so I had to choose an intellectual profession that did not involve the use of math. Unfortunately for me, however, I've had to become quite good at math because, as it happens, law does involve quite a bit of it.
Interesting.
Especially when you're calculating damages, like how much someone is owed after they're being wronged. What is the interest owed on their contract or the damages that they are owed? There's quite a bit of it.
Understand. Now, you talk about helping people with a love for helping people, but is there a specialty as it pertains to law, whether it's criminal or corporate, that you If you could choose most cases, what type would you lean more towards?
I'm not quite sure because I have a love of the entire
Okay.
spectrum of the legal field. It's, how do I say, you know, I like to research a lot, and so I'm quite interested, or very interested, in all aspects of the law. I've actually about to complete a diploma in anti-money laundering.
Okay.
And so my love of law actually goes a bit further into law enforcement, as it were, preventing criminals from being able to launder their money through the Virgin Islands, because, as you know, that would affect all of us.
Yes.
Because the BVI already has, let's face it, a reputation,
Stigma.
a stigma attached to it in the British media, among other things. And, you know, I would like to be among those that are actively fighting and combating this stigma by actually being in the field and combating such practices.
You talk about a love for research, which I believe makes you, like I said in your intro, extremely resourceful. One of the things that makes you so relatable and appreciative to the Virgin Islands community is that you're always willing to give knowledge. You're always willing to impart your wisdom or your side of how you see things to just about anyone that reaches out to you, which I think is commendable. I want to talk about young leadership. You are the managing partner of Silk Legal. Tell us about the journey of Silk Legal and what kind of obstacles did you face along the journey as a young legal professional that may have led you to being a managing partner now of your own firm?
Well, I'm going to be quite frank and open and honest with you about that. Apart from Thornton Smith, which is a law firm headed by Mr. Jamal Smith, no one else was willing to give me a chance to be a lawyer or to have me under them. And so, you know, when you're faced with that, you either do your own thing or you just have to go and find another thing. And I'm not going to give up on law that easily. I've been a fighter all my life, and so I decided, well, let's fight it out. I'll found my own firm and we'll tough it out, see where it goes, see where it takes me.
I want to talk about what you just said in regards to Thornton and of course Mr. Jamal Smith being the only one willing to quote unquote take you under his wing and give you a job essentially. Why do you think that is?
I'm not quite sure, but it was a wonderful experience I had with him, and I learned a huge amount, and one cannot underestimate the importance as a young professional of having an older professional guide them. Fortunately now I'm also partnered with Mr. Richard Rowe. But you know, I'm not just a lawyer, I've also grew up in business.
Yes.
As you know, my mother has the bookshop Serendipity on Main Street, and it has had several iterations. Firstly, it was a boutique, and then it was a bookshop and a cafe. And she also used to have a restaurant and bar, and you know, I also used to help out with those, all those other businesses as well. In fact, I used to go between here and St. John almost weekly for the purpose of picking up boxes to supply the bookshop with books. And you know, so I guess what I'm saying is that, in a very roundabout way, is that, you know, as young professionals, it's important to have a variety of experiences, because that's what makes you whole. That's beautiful.
When we look at a number of young professionals in different fields, I think many of them can relate to the fact that, like yourself, it seemed difficult for someone to give you an opportunity to start. And this is in all different fields. You hear it a lot. Young people are saying, no one's giving me an opportunity. In your case, you decided not to lay down and just let it be. What encouragement would you give to others who are experiencing what you've experienced?
Well, before we get there, let me preface this by saying this. After Hurricane Irma, I had, you know, when there were several meetings going around, public meetings about
Yes.
recovery and development, and I had actually approached the Premier at that time, the Honourable Dr. D. Orlando Smith, as he then was, at a very public meeting, and I told him, look, it is not good enough that we are sending away our students, doesn't matter whether they're young or old, sending away our students, sending away our people to get educated overseas. Tell them they must come back if they're on a scholarship because they're bonded.
Absolutely.
To tell them, well, we have nothing for you, so you have to go away and get some experience. So you're sending them away to tell them to come back, to send them away again, and hope that they come back. And that's obviously contributing to a brain drain. What I've always advocated is that we need our college to develop to a stage where it is offering a multitude of bachelor degrees at the very least. In the same way that the Bahamas has done it, even though they have a lot more people and a lot more resources than we have been afforded. But we need to get to that stage. Now, with respect to what your question was, quite seriously I would say, well, if no one is going to give you the experience, well, you better try and you better give it to yourself. Do what you can to give it to yourself. And don't be afraid, however, to get involved in other industries than what you perceive to be your preferred industry. The BVI is composed of a very entrepreneurial people. And so when one opportunity may seem close to you, there may be another right around the corner. But that's not to say don't give up on trying to be involved in industry that you want to be in.
Specifically, yes. But be open to...
But be open to other possibilities.
I want to thank you for your honesty in this regard, because many persons have echoed the very same sentiment. We're sending young people or people in general away to get education. We're requiring them to come back. When they come back, we're giving them hell to find employment. Either we can't fit them in somewhere, or we're telling them, like we often hear, you have no experience. And we're really and truly, I think, doing ourselves a disjustice in the territory when we treat our locals like that. You, on the other hand, a prime example of not allowing that to consume you and to take over you. You've assisted many persons within the legal profession at Silk Legal, but most notably and recently representing the House of Assembly members in the COI. Many persons have their thoughts about the COI, and that's fine. But I want to talk about the importance, Daniel, of young persons like ourselves having a seat at the table. Speak to that and the opportunity to have been hired to serve in that capacity.
Well, firstly, I think that coming out of the COI, after the COI is completed, we're going to have to take a very serious look at this. And I just want to go back to the question beforehand. Sure. I don't think it is necessarily right just to say young students, as a lot of people do. The fact is that there are a multitude of persons outside, they're of all age ranges, that for the first time may find themselves in university maybe at the age of 40, 50. True. And we can't deny them the opportunities either. That we simply can't. We have to give everyone an equal opportunity in that as far as we can. With respect to having young people at the head of the, on the seat, one of the things I'm proud of is that during the last government, when they were debating the Recovery and Development Agency, I was actually the one that was inside the House of Assembly, watching them in their eyes and texting them and say, look, I want to have a young person on the RDA. There should be a youth representative. And thankfully, I would say because of that representation, we now have, or we had, I don't know if it still continues, but we actually had a youth representative on the RDA board. And it is very important because after this generation goes, and after this generation retires, and if there's no transfer of knowledge, who is going to take over?
Absolutely, absolutely. Are you satisfied at present with the level of succession planning the level of passing on of knowledge in the territory, be it on a political level or any level? Are you satisfied?
Absolutely not. There isn't any succession planning, is there? Is there succession planning? I mean, you see the same persons in the same roles years on end. I'm pretty sure they're members of the public service, and kudos to them for serving the public for so long.
Yeah.
Absolutely, they're probably doing a very fantastic job, but at the same time, a lot of them have been in the same positions probably before I was born.
Absolutely.
Or, from the time I got into the high school, and, we have to have a level of transfer of knowledge to younger persons so there could be a continuous one, because what happens if somebody is put in a position that they have no experience in, have not had the opportunity to shadow somebody more experienced in? What happens? There's a lack of knowledge, lack of understanding of the position, and there will be great disruption. And how does that translate to the public? Well, what will happen is that, everyday applications will be, the young person will go inside, or the young professional, or whoever they may be, the new person in the position will go there thinking that, okay, they're going to change everything, without actually understanding what that process actually is, or actually was, and that will translate into perhaps even something as fundamental as trade licenses or work permits being delayed even more than some are now.
Understood. When we talk about the COI, as we mentioned, what do you think as Virgin Islanders, young and old, of all ages, when the chips fall, wherever they will fall, what do you think it is most important for us to have taken away and understand about the process of the Commission of Inquiry?
Well, let's talk about what the results after the COI is. Now, I am of the view that we should all be watching the COI to take a look at what mistakes have been made in the past, what mistakes continue to be made. I
do on a daily basis, and just to let you know, it is draining as hell. That's just my honest, unapologetic. It is.
It is quite draining, and for some, it can be a bit traumatic. Reliving events of the past. That's my personal feeling. But I have to say that, and some people may say I'm getting myself a brown nose here, that I don't think anyone can say that any of our politicians that have been interviewed thus far have operated with a lack of good faith for the Virgin Islands. I know that may be sounding like I'm getting a brown nose.
And I'm going to tell you this, and I'm going to be honest, and you're going to have a brown nose, and I don't know what I'm going to get. But they might not have acted in the wrong faith of the Virgin Islands, but some of them sure as hell didn't make it any better for us. That's the fact. And we have to get to the point where we are understanding that this is not just about us locally, but the entire world is watching. So when we're unprepared, when we let our egos get in the way of things, when we feel as though we have a right to ignorance, first and foremost, we're not setting any example for the generations to come. But then in the same breath, we're really reflecting, and it's unfortunate, and I want to put this out there, the reflection of some of the handlings of the COI is not the representation of all members of the voting electorate in the Virgin Islands or its residents. I just had to say that.
Certainly, and I could totally agree with where you're coming from. The fact of the matter is, as is pointed out by the Honourable Natalia Wheatley, is that if you even look at the ease of doing business in the Virgin Islands,
there is no ease.
There is no ease. So that does speak to precisely what you're saying, that things haven't necessarily been made better for us. In fact, I would say every day it just seems to be made harder because there's always some new requirement for this. And I understand, and I've raised this point before in the recovery and development public consultations. I understand that you want to meet international obligations, international standards, but what about us?
Mm-hmm.
What is good for us? Not every international standard should be applied in the BVI.
Correct.
We have to look to see and analyze what is in our interest and what is not. The United States does it all the time. Even the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom has no qualms about breaking international treaties to protect its own interest. Yet here we are, slaves to the notion that we have to follow each and everything that the international community says we have to.
Agreed.
Much to the detriment of our people.
Agreed. When you talk about injustice, earlier you mentioned about the fact that you really just don't like to see injustice in any sense of the word. When we look at our Virgin Islands community, our very tiny 25 square miles, is there anything on the line of injustice that really bothers you as it pertains to our country?
In a way, yes. We don't have legal aid for civil disputes. We have it for criminal disputes. But much of what affects the day-to-day or the average citizen, the law-abiding citizen, isn't the criminal law, but the civil law, disputes between individuals. In fact, one very disturbing thing is that I often appear before the Labour Tribunal, and I have to give kudos to Mr. Smith for this. He tried to rein in some other arbitrators with their fees.
Okay.
Now, the Labour Arbitration Tribunal is supposed to be cheaper than actually going to the High Court. Would you believe that I have a employee, a former employee, he doesn't have all the resources in the world, obviously. One of the arbitrators, in order to sit on his case, was requesting a fee of $5,000. It's cheaper to go to the High Court and represent yourself, perhaps, and see where the chips lay. But, you know, that is an
injustice.
Where's the access to justice? Where's the access to justice for those mothers and fathers that require child support, that are going through divorce, that don't know exactly what to do, what the entitlements are? You know, I mean, the magistrates' court does a wonderful job in terms of trying their best to assist them, but remember that the magistrates' court is in the role of as a adjudicator rather than someone who's outwardly there to assist. And obviously, if they assist one person too much, then they will be seen as being biased, and perhaps an appeal may lie. So we have to have a mechanism whereby persons can approach a legal aid office for civil disputes. Perhaps someone is owed thousands upon thousands of dollars from a major company, but they don't have the resources.
I'll completely understand.
And what about the High Court? The High Court fees are spectacularly high for some individuals. I mean, to file a case, it used to be back before 2017 a couple of dollars. Now it's over $100 US. And one of my pet peeves is the fact that to file a case in St. Lucia or St. Kitts in the Eastern Caribbean is about 104 EC dollars. And we're under the same Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court system. And it's 104 US dollars for us, because they say a dollar is a dollar.
Correct.
And, you know, do we get any extra service for it? And I think we definitely, among the other things that we definitely need, if we're paying this amount of money, is we need more criminal and civil court judges. It is unfair to Justice Ellis, as great as she may be, that she alone is in the civil court. There's a huge amount of cases with a huge amount of judgments to be issued, and this obviously contributes to the delay in getting judgments.
Yes,
obviously the commercial court is a separate entity. The commercial court, well, not a separate entity, but that's a beast of its own.
Yes.
And, you know, their fees are also spectacularly high and with good reason. But that's what I would say on injustice. You know, access to justice in the territory is not where it should be.
And making sure that all persons who require legal services are put in a position to do so.
Definitely.
Wonderful. Viewers, we are going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back with the man himself, Mr. Daniel Davies. You're watching The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman. Brilliant Hands and Minds Tutoring Services. One-on-one tutorials in math and English, intense homework assistance, academic enrichment, school projects, effective communication and public speaking development, sign language for adults and children on Saturdays only. Registered with the Virgin Islands High School Certificate Program, Brilliant Hands and Minds can help you too. Offering intense curriculum-based training to help you or your loved ones get their high school diploma. It's time to make your family's education a #1 priority. Hurry, space is limited. Brilliant Hands and Minds Learning Center. We are the trained education professionals. Viewers, welcome back. Thank you so much for sticking with us. Daniel, in speaking of injustices, I must ask you, what is your take on the employment situation here in the BVI? We have injustices on a lot of levels. Employers versus employees. Tell us your take on that.
Well, the first thing I would mention is the taxes.
Okay.
People have the Virgin Islands to be a low tax jurisdiction. It's not. It's cheaper for the employees, yes, but for employers, our effective tax rate is essentially between 20 to 28%, between that, well, I should say 26 to 28%, plus a percentage of whatever they are paying the employees. So we're not actually that low of a tax jurisdiction.
Understood.
But there's this issue where employers deduct money for NHI and Social Security, don't pay it. Right. And then that leaves persons in a very bad situation.
For years.
For years. And it particularly affects persons that are, for example, seeking residency or belongship. They can't necessarily prove that they are in good standing because their employers have not done what they're supposed to. What is the employee to do in such a situation? We must make that legal situation clear. We must make it clear.
Why haven't we, though? Let's take it from a state perspective. Why hasn't the government of the Virgin Islands made that position clear as to how we're going to deal with such matters?
Honestly, I'm not sure, but I should hope that that situation does become clear by the end of the Commission of Inquiry. I think it is... I personally don't have a problem with the Commission of Inquiry. I have a problem with some of its processes and the way it is being done.
Understood.
But it has been very revealing, and it has been massively educating, or massively educational, I should say, for the average person to see how government actually works.
Agreed.
And what goes on. In that light, it is it's a very good exercise in that regard. I just have a problem with better processes. Yes.
Understood. Daniel, I want to thank you so much for stopping by and coming to the set and sharing your bit of wisdom from your perspective on justice, injustice, of course, the COI, and really cementing how important it is for us to understand what's taking place on a level that does not do us an injustice. I think education is the single most prerequisite for self-advancement. And if Virgin Islanders, all Virgin Islanders, would take the time to try to be educated on something as simple as our Constitution and understanding what our rights are and moving forward, I think we would all be in a better position. But I applaud you for your stance. I applaud you, first of all, for not giving up when persons didn't want to give you an opportunity. That's the first. Second of all, creating your own table to sit at. Second of all, you didn't sit at somebody else's table. You created your own damn table, and you're sitting at it, and you're at the helm, but you're also contributing significantly to a country that you have been a product of. And I truly appreciate that, and we wish you the best.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm truly grateful for you giving me the opportunity
Absolutely.
to be on your show. If ask me to come on any time, I'll be happy to share my thoughts, controversial as they may be.
Most definitely. Viewers, that's all the time we have. We've been watching The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman here with the man himself, managing partner of Silk Legal, Mr. Daniel Davies. We'll see you next week.